Welcome to Shoot the Breeze, a podcast that celebrates the messiness of life, relationships, and Christianity. It's creatively titled because it will be just us shooting the breeze, sometimes with guests, while occasionally saying something important. We hope you enjoy. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thanks.
I've interviewed your husband. I interviewed like 3 or 4 times back, like way when we were doing guests years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, him and I have like a series now.
The regular, yeah.
But I'm so glad I get to talk to you.
Thanks
And
for asking me.
yeah. No, welcome. All right. So when I interview new guests, people who have not been on before, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Well, first of all, you're Sarah, you're Pastor Scott's wife.
Yes.
Okay. And he's told his side of stories. So I'm excited to get to your side. But I have a couple questions that I start off with for new guests. So the first question is, what is your favorite way to waste time?
Oh, I'm going to get really judged for this. I just really love Instagram or YouTube.
Yeah.
I love people's lives. Like, I get really invested in people I've never met in person.
Wait, okay, so is it like reels, like real life people reels, or like dumb video reels?
Probably more real life people. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I love a good funny reels. Like, I will be laughing my head off with my earbuds in, and I know Scott's just thinking I'm so ridiculous, but it's kind of like an outlet too. Like, if I want to laugh, sometimes that's where I go. Because people are funny.
Yeah.
They make some funny ones.
They're so creative.
So creative. And I love that. And I don't think that I'm super creative. So I really appreciate that in people.
Have you seen the one? Okay, so this has a couple stories behind it. So years ago when Lydia was like 3, we obviously had Christmas, and then it's time to get rid of the tree. And so we're going to throw away it was a live tree. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no! Why? Put it in my womb! Like, she wanted to keep it in her room forever. So she's bawling, right? Well, then just this year, our nephews have the same video because we recorded Lydia.
Yeah.
So they now have the video.
Oh,
Oh, why the tree? So speaking of creativity, though, there is a reel that Lacey just showed me of a Christmas tree being thrown out. And so he's just like getting carried to the side of the curb, and he's just kind of like laying there. He's like, hey, I thought it was going well, and, we're having a good time. The kids were hanging out with me, and then all of a sudden I wake up today, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And
That's so
and
funny.
so then you see him, he's kind of like looking in the window from outside. Yeah. He's like, hey guys.
That's
hey.
hilarious.
Stuff like that.
I love stuff like that. It just makes me chuckle. And then I probably annoy my friends on Instagram because I send them reel after reel after reel. And I send them to Scott. Mm-hmm. He won't even watch them. It's so annoying. And then I find out that's a dude thing. So I'm like, okay, fine, don't watch my
I watch mine. Lacey's hilarious.
Okay, well, mine are funny too. And they're relatable. I only send him ones that I know he will appreciate and is relatable to our life, and he still doesn't watch them.
Forward them to Lacey and I. I promise I'll watch them. Okay. It's really funny because I'm not on social media.
Wait, do you have an Instagram? Do y'all have one?
No. Text them to us.
Oh, okay, fine.
So that was just going to be my next point.
Okay.
Is I'm not on social media.
Yeah.
Lacey is.
Yeah.
But we don't like post anything. She just basically uses it to watch
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
So anyways, whenever someone sends me like a reel or a video, I call it, I have like 3 or 4 walls. And basically it's just a group text with friends of mine or people where I'm like, okay, I'll send it. And so I spam all these groups.
Yep,
Anyways,
that's what I do.
That's what I do. Okay.
The only thing I could think of, reading is not a waste of time. I do really love to read.
No.
I'm reading The Book Thief right now. Oh, it's so good. I'm not very far in, but it's really
What's
good.
The Book Thief?
The Book Thief, it's set back in like World War II.
Is it a novel?
Yeah, but it's written so creatively and uniquely. It's like narrated, but in the coolest way. Kind of reminds me of like C.S. Lewis's like the Screw Tape Letters type situation.
Okay.
I really like it so far. But that's not a waste of time in my opinion.
No. So, well.
I mean, it can be. I suppose it could be if you had other things to do.
I'm not a novel person. I can't stand them.
I love them so
yeah.
much. And your kind of books, those, learn more. Hate those books.
I'm reading, it's called The Unseen Realm by Michael Heiser. Nerd of nerds. He worked for Logos for years. He was like the Greek he was the Hebrew scholar for Logos for years. Love it. It's so good.
I have to admit that I have become more fond of reading those kinds of books. And I've finished a few, which is, I was like, oh my gosh, I finished one of these books, mostly for Bible studies.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gotten used to them and like them more, but it's not one I'm going to be like, yay. No, that's going to be my novels.
See, those are the ones that relax me. Here, I think what it is, and I usually do, I buy two versions. One's the audio version, one's the paperback, because I follow along with it and like make notes or whatever. But I'm a terrible reader.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so, but
like slow? Slow reader?
super slow. And so it takes a lot of energy. It's not relaxing to me. However, that being said, and I genuinely chalk this up to a spiritual gift because I don't see it in the scriptures, but it was back in between my first and second year of Bible school. Actually just told the story on the last episode, but back in between the two, that was like, depending on if you're like a Baptist, I got saved, or if you're charismatic, I was filled with Holy Spirit.
Right.
So wherever. But I could just crank through theological books. I cannot do that with any other book. It's weird. Like I genuinely admit that it's weird. Where you give me the headiest theological book and it's just like just reading through it. You give me a novel and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, I think that might be a good.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not everyone's cup of tea. Okay, next question. New guest question. What makes you feel the most connected to God?
Oh, man. I think just when I feel his presence for no good reason. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like in the most mundane part of my life, like I know he's right there. Or when he tells me something, also for no good reason. Because
no, like no good reason. Are you talking about like you haven't done a good devotional? You haven't like prayed for 3 hours. You're talking about like you're in the middle of your day.
Right.
And all of a sudden
you
you're like,
wouldn't expect. I mean, the reason is he loves me and he's always there. But I just feel so loved and so connected when it's, just kind of out of the blue. When I'm not necessarily thinking of him, but something will spark a thought and then maybe he says something to me or he shares something with me that I don't really know why he shared it with me. A good example is like we were this was years ago. Scott and I lived in Georgia and we went to a movie. And on the way out of the movie, we ran into a friend and her dad. They had just seen a different movie and we saw each other and we were standing in the halls of the movie theater. And the Holy Spirit, I just heard his voice so clearly say, this is going to be your family one day. And her and my brother hadn't even met. And when I kind of was like, what a weird thought. But then later, when they ended up married, I was like, oh my gosh. And I just felt like he told me that just because. Because, I'm his daughter and he just wanted me to let me in on a fun little secret. And
like one of those like, hey, you want to know something?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, cool. Like, I want to tell you a secret like that nobody else knows but me and now you. And it's just, it's so cool. Like,
what would you chalk that up as one of the most like bizarre ones, or do you have like one where you're like, oh my goodness, this one was crazy?
I probably do, but it doesn't come to my mind. That's the only one that came to my mind. But it happens a lot for me. Well, okay, here's a crazy one. So one time in Alaska, after we'd gone through a lot of healing and our marriage was healed, we had Zion. I don't know if we had Hadassah yet. But we were living in Alaska and we didn't fight a lot. We don't fight a lot. But we had gotten into a doozy and I was so mad at him. I was so mad. But, I knew I had the tools to know how to deal with it. And one of those things was pour your heart out to the Lord. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be angry and not sin, like scripture talks about, I better pour my heart out to the safest place. And so I just was letting so to speak, letting him have it in the car, the Holy Spirit, like telling him, I am so mad he did this. And I was saying this stuff out loud because I tend to talk to the Lord out loud.
Yeah.
And I was just telling, I'm mad because he's not right and all these things. And all of a sudden, mid-rant, I felt the presence of the Lord in my car so stronger than I've ever felt it before, actually, that I was afraid to turn and look in the passenger seat. I was afraid because I was afraid of what I was going to see. It was like that. And I wasn't scared, but it was like the presence was so intense and so like I knew I was in the presence of Almighty. And eventually I worked up the courage to just slowly turn my head and I didn't see anything. Dang it, I kind of wish I had now. But it was just really cool. And all of the anxiety and the anger and the things that would just melted away. Honestly, it just melted away. He didn't say anything. He was just with me in it. He was just with me in it. And how I learned a lot in that moment. And it's a really cool memory. It's really cool.
Did it feel like, have you ever had your eyes closed, but you know, like someone's right there looking at you?
Yes, it's creepy.
Did it kind of feel like that where you're like,
it kind of did. And I think that's why
eyes were open, but you're like,
yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, like he's actually, his presence is just like so intense and so here. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I think that's why, and that I was afraid to look, because I wasn't afraid of him. I was just more in awe. Like you know, when you read the stories in the Bible where they're like, don't be afraid, because I think the natural human reaction to that kind of the presence of God, his glory is, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Freaking out.
Yeah. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about, you and Scott have been married 25 years, 30 years?
28 years.
28. Oh, ooh.
I know.
Right in the middle. 28 years. Okay. So where did you guys meet?
We met in Maui.
Okay.
Youth with a Mission.
Okay.
YWAM, as we say.
Yes. As we say.
As we YWAMers say. Or Young Women After Men, or
Okay.
Youth Without Any Money.
Okay.
Those are some fun little...
That's Alaska.
Is it called an acronym?
Yeah.
An acronym.
So Lacey and I went to Alaska Bible Institute, ABI, or Alaska Bridal Institute.
Oh.
You know all the.
Yeah, you got to make stuff up.
Okay, so you guys met, and what was like your first reaction to him?
I thought he was funny.
Okay.
I mean, he is funny, but that was my first like.
He's no longer funny, but he used to be.
He always makes me laugh, and he'll say sometimes like, and he'll just say something, and I'll just giggle.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I love that I still make you laugh," and I'm like, "How could you not? You're funny."
I will say, I do know for a fact that not all of his jokes are funny to you, and so he'll text me to back him up.
Okay, but that's when he crosses the line. That is only when his jokes cross the line, and I'm like, "Hey, this is no."
No.
I should text Lacey. They're doing it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all are kind of known for that.
If you're not pushing the boundaries, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
I'm coming over to that side more and more. The things we've gone through in life, I'm like, okay.
You know what? At some point, you just can't carry it. You're like, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys met at YWAM, and how long from when you saw each other to start dating?
You're asking the wrong person those specifics.
Oh, okay.
He would know perfectly.
Yeah.
I do not have a clue.
Well, was it like a week later, or was it
Wait,
like...
from the time we met to the time we started dating?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Well, the first time we met, it was probably about two-ish years, maybe just a little less, because I think when I first met him, which he loves to tell people this, I didn't remember it, and I didn't.
That's funny.
I didn't, but I think, yeah, it was about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from dating to like engagement to marriage, like...
We had like a 9-month engagement. We had really long engagement. I didn't prefer that, but
I don't eat. Okay.
He did. Well, it's not just that I think he preferred it. We lived in different states. So, like, I needed to go home and be with my family and kind of make plans. And he was still wrapping up kind of a hard time in YWAM, Maui. So, yeah, it wasn't really choice. It just was necessary.
Do you, and I forget what Scott says about this, do you advocate for, like, people who are getting married to, like, just get it done with? Like, hurry up? Or are you like, long engagement, long
I kind of
dating?
do. I feel like the only way a long engagement works is if you're not together, which was our case.
Right.
We were apart for like 6 months of it.
Okay, that
and
makes
so
sense,
that
yeah.
was hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it was safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is if you're two people who love Jesus and you're like, hey, we want to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
It's a lot harder when you're together constantly. Yeah.
I think Lacey and I, what was it? We were dating for a month and engaged for a month.
Okay. Wow.
But we'd known each other for almost 2 years at that point. We were on a traveling ministry together.
Right.
Like, we knew a lot about each other. It's not like I met her and it was like, hey, let's get married.
Also, like, when you know, you know. Like, I think if you both know, you meet each other, because I've heard that too, where they didn't know each other for 2 years and it was very quick, but guess what? It worked because God was in the middle of it. So I think it's just pretty individual.
Well, and it's like, we have to work, like, for us, we'll have people be like, yeah, we want to just make sure everything's worked out before we get married. It's like, you're always going to be working on stuff.
Yeah.
You might as well just...
I mean, premarital counseling's great. It's helpful.
I agree. Yes.
It's still going to be stuff afterwards.
It's good. Exactly. It's going to prepare you for dealing with stuff.
It's wise.
Yeah.
It's not the end.
Especially
It's also
premarital.
not the end of counseling.
It's not.
Not the end.
There's this weird stigma about counseling. We've met with a spouse who the other spouse, I'm trying to be as generic as possible, where the one spouse is like, no, I just want people to speak into our marriage. And the other spouse is like, I don't want people to think that stuff's wrong in our marriage. And it's like, it's gonna be.
It's going to be. Yep.
It isn't now, but it will be.
Yep.
So, okay, you guys are, how long did you say you dated for?
I don't remember how long. I want to say we dated for, oh gosh. I don't really honestly have a clue. I don't honestly have a clue. I just know we were engaged for 9 months. I think it was more than 6 months that we dated before he engaged, or before he asked me to marry him, because I was like, he's not ever going to ask me to marry him.
So were you guys both on the YWAM campus when you guys were dating then? Okay.
Yes.
And then you said he had to wrap up stuff during your engagement. Was he on campus and did you move?
Yeah, I left. I went home to Alaska.
Okay.
And I worked in the office at the church with my dad because he was pastoring Living Word Fellowship in Wasilla at the time. And Scott was there. He eventually went home to Caldwell in Texas to be with his family for a little before we both moved to San Marcos, where he was going to be a youth pastor at the church where he grew up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were in Alaska at this time.
Yeah.
So you guys get married where?
We got married in Texas. I moved. So 3 months before we got married, I moved to Texas and lived with some family friends of his, which was so fun. And they were so wonderful. And we just kind of planned the wedding, like finished up planning the wedding those 3 months that we were there. Okay. And he lived in the mobile home where we were going to live free because it was behind the church. Oh, humble beginnings. And then I lived over there, and he started working as the youth pastor while we were engaged.
Okay, so you guys get married. You here's what's funny. I know pieces of your story. I don't know the timelines. Okay. So like in my brain, I'm already like, okay, wait, but you guys were in Europe too. Wait, you guys were in Georgia. Wait, what did, so like,
okay,
put it like how you guys get married.
Yes.
In Texas.
Yes.
So then what?
So we stay in Texas.
Okay.
For the next 2 years.
Okay.
Youth pastoring.
Right.
At, what's it called?
Where he gets arrested.
Yes. Yes. Don't even get me started on that.
I think he's shared that story
really
on here.
Dramatic. Yeah. Oh my gosh, how come I can't Hill Country? Something has Hill Country. Okay. I keep thinking Hill Country Fellowship, but this is current. I don't remember what it was called. Hill Country Christian School is the school that was there. I know that.
Okay, and you guys worked for a school in Georgia, right?
We did. That was later though.
Okay.
That was actually while we were going through the pregnancy of Josiah.
Okay.
That's where we lived. But for 2 years, he was youth pastor, and then in San Marcos, Texas. And then we got a job at the Omaha Home for Boys in Omaha, Nebraska. That's where we went after that.
Okay. So you guys were in...
But we lived there twice.
That's what I'm saying is I remember the one.
So it went Texas.
Okay.
Omaha.
Okay.
Georgia.
Got it.
Omaha.
Okay.
Alaska.
No, but when were you in Europe though?
Oh, that was just we had Josiah when we were in Europe, but we were only there for like a couple months.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you guys lived there.
No. We were just visitors. That all happened as we were visiting England.
Why were you guys there?
For a YWAM thing called 40 Days.
Oh,
it was
okay.
Like, it was like a mini discipleship training school. Like they condensed it down, and it was for, was it for high school aged kids as well? I can't remember. It was for young people.
Okay.
And so they just kind of had like we called it lecture phase where people would teach, and then outreach. But the outreach was way short. It was only 40 days. It was exactly 40 days that they did it. And friends of ours were leading it and asked us to come be leaders. And I was pregnant. But I wasn't too pregnant to go. Mm-hmm. I could still travel.
Okay. So, Texas, Nebraska, working with a boys' home there. Mm-hmm. You moved to Georgia.
Yep.
It was while you were in Georgia that you went to England?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Then I know other pieces of your story that I'm trying to work in here to try to figure out the timeline and stuff. So you're in. Okay. And then you guys moved back to Georgia? Or you guys come back to Georgia. So you're living in Georgia. You have the 2-month-ish thing in England. Come back to Georgia.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So, you're pregnant. You go to London. What happened? Like, tell me about that pregnancy and first child.
Well, first child I gave birth to, but when we lived in Omaha the first time, I miscarried.
Okay.
And then I miscarried.
How far along in the pregnancy did you miscarry the first time?
The first time we'd only known for a few days.
Okay.
And then the second one, we knew, like we made it all the way to the first appointment, like the first official appointment at about 10 weeks, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. And so they were like, well, it could just be too early. Let's do an ultrasound. But there was no heartbeat. Okay. So that was really early, right after we found out, and then a little later in the first trimester. And so we didn't even start trying again until, so that happened in Omaha. Both of those miscarriages happened in Omaha. And then we moved to Georgia. And when we finally got insurance, we were nervous and scared, but we started trying again.
Okay, sorry, back up to the first miscarriage. Mm-hmm. I apologize for my questions. Lacey and I have never been pregnant, and so I don't even know what that is like. Mm-hmm. So the first miscarriage, you'd only known for like a day or so. Yeah. I guess, what did that do to you?
I mean, I was devastated.
Even just knowing for like a day.
Yeah, because we kind of.
Again, I'm not trying to be cruel. No. I don't know this experience.
We got married and we both, wanted kids or whatever. We didn't talk about it a lot because we just, I want kids. But before, like, we'd been married a few years. And I was like, hello, like, can we think about, because, he wasn't getting any younger.
He was like 50 at this point. Right?
When we got married. So like, he's in his 30s now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I really want to have a baby. And he's like, oh, I don't want to. And then he finally was like, well, I don't even really know if I want kids. And I was like, what? Like,
was that the first time you've ever heard?
Yes. And I was like, I can't remember if I thought this or if I said it to him. He would be able to tell you.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. Like, it was, for me, it was like, hey, if having kids has been such a dream of mine since I was little and something I know God put there, that if you would have told me before we got married you didn't want kids, I could not have married you. Like, so I felt really betrayed.
So like
lied
legitimate,
to.
yeah, like legitimately betrayed,
Right.
lied to, not like, haha, okay.
At some point, he came to be like, okay, it's not that I don't genuinely want kids. I'm scared of being a parent. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course you are. Who isn't?
Yeah,
Like, that makes sense to me. I understand that. And then he was like, but I do really want to be a parent. And so, okay, let's have a kid. And so, we just started trying, and it didn't ever take long for us. We're just like really blessed to be, and I know that people really struggle with that. And so I just was grateful that we just got pregnant so quickly.
Yeah.
And I found out and told him, and we were really excited. And like, I think it might have been two-ish days later, I started spotting and thought, uh-oh. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And then we went to the emergency room, and I did in fact miscarry. Okay. So I was devastated. Okay. But at the same time, I didn't really even have a really long time to process it. So I was really, really sad. But I knew that like it could be fairly common. Okay. That I had family members who experienced miscarriage. So I just thought, it's just something that happens, and it's really sad and hard. But I'll probably get pregnant again, and everything will be fine. Okay. And so it was hard. I was sad, but I didn't get stuck in my grief. Okay. But I was really sad.
Did it affect? Because how long from that point to when you got pregnant again?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I know that the second time it affected me, it was a lot harder.
Well, I think before the second one though, leading up to it, did you have any fear, anxiety, like, oh no, what if this happens again? Or were you like, oh, okay, I know that, like, it might be.
I was nervous.
Okay.
I was nervous. I don't think I think I just kind of assumed it was a one and done situation.
Right. That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah.
Is
like I didn't expect it to happen again. Because when it did happen again, it happened later. Yeah. So I was excited, getting more and more excited than I did the first time because I had the time to. Yeah. I was pregnant for 10 weeks. And so it was really exciting,
10 weeks. Are you showing by that point?
No, you're not. In fact, especially for like a first pregnancy, no, you couldn't tell at all.
Got it.
But I was just so anticipating that first appointment, and I had made it past, because I had always heard that if you make it past the stage where you miscarried previously, that was a really good sign. And
I thought isn't it like, what's the date when you can start telling people? Is it 6 weeks or 8 weeks?
They say to usually wait until after your first trimester, which is like 12 weeks is the length of the first trimester. Okay. About 12 weeks, maybe 14, I don't know, but 3-ish months. Okay. And so I had made it past a few days. I've been pregnant for weeks and weeks.
Yeah. You said 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, like 10 weeks when we went in for the ultrasound, because they don't even do they don't even schedule usually an appointment until that time. Okay. So they can actually, see what's going on, hear the heartbeat and like. Right. And that's when we went in, and I'll never forget laying on that table, waiting and waiting and waiting for them to find the heartbeat. Getting more and more anxious as the time went by. He kept picking it up and putting it back down and picking it up and putting it back down. And I'd hear something, that's your heartbeat. Okay. Because I'd never heard heartbeat before. I didn't know how fast baby heartbeats were. And so I kept, oh, that's not it. That's not it. And then said, well, I can't find it. He gave up looking and decided, he said, sometimes we can't hear it this early because babies, depending on where they are
Like
in there,
positioning-wise?
yeah,
Okay.
we can't hear. So let's go do an ultrasound.
Okay.
So they did the ultrasound and they found the baby, but there was no heartbeat.
Okay.
So,
Are they
but
able to
I was,
tell, like, what- I guess, like a miscarriage is the baby dying.
Mhm.
Are they able to tell when that happens, or?
Like it, well, they could tell by the second time. I mean, you could tell the first time because it just, your body just dispels it. And
Right.
you can tell.
Right.
Like,
Because it's,
that's, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
But the
Okay.
second time, I was too far along for my body to naturally.
Okay. Yeah.
So what they
Yes.
did was I had to go under and they did what's called a DNC
Okay.
and they go in and take everything out.
Okay.
And that was really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I was devastated, to find out. And I remember taking such comfort in my dog. We had this boxer who
Yeah.
was just the funniest. We were just talking about him the other day, me and Scott. He was the funniest dog. He had so much personality, but he was super sweet.
Okay.
He adored me. He liked Scott,
Yeah.
but he adored me. And I remember crying on the couch in our living room and he just being right next to me and I just held him and hugged him and he was a big part of my comfort.
Yep.
People say their animals are their babies. Well,
Yeah.
when you're struggling with infertility and with
Yep.
loss, then you kind of really latch onto them
Yep.
as your kids, so to speak, the
Yeah.
fill-in. They
Yeah.
fill your empty arms.
Yeah.
And so, he was just really a precious, precious dog. That was really difficult. I remember waking up from the anesthesia after everything had been done.
So did they bring you in as soon as like the ultrasound was done and
No, I had to go home and wait a few days. And I think
how was
I want to say
that?
that they wanted to kind of see if my body would just be like, okay, but when that much growth has happened with the baby, obviously your body just doesn't naturally do it.
Yeah.
And so they just go in and if you're far enough along, they'll induce labor, but baby was too little to do that.
Yeah.
So they just went in and removed it.
Okay. I have really pragmatic questions and then I also have like emotional questions. Back to the first baby. Pragmatically, like, do you pass the baby? Like, what happens?
Yep, that's what happened. So I started to show to spot,
Okay.
and I was like, uh-oh, because that's not supposed to happen. It
Right.
can, and things are totally fine. Because it happened later in a pregnancy with, I think it was Hadassah, and I was scared to death.
Oh, I bet.
And she was fine.
Yeah.
So it can be other reasons,
Yeah.
but I kind of just knew because it just kept getting worse and worse
Okay.
and worse. By the time we got to the emergency room, I was cramping so bad. Like my body was like, nope, something happened. And I went into the bathroom and I brought the nurse in and said, I'm pretty sure it just all came out. And she was like, yep, that's what that is. She was so sweet. Of course, I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. It was so bad. And then I puked on the way home.
Yeah.
This was the first time.
Yeah.
We left the emergency room and I just told Scott he had to pull the car over and he pulled the car over and I just threw up. It wasn't because of meds.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of pain. I think it was just emotion.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. But it's a very different experience than the second time. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening again.
So I'm like, do you do anything with the baby? Like,
No.
okay.
I
That's
mean,
what
I think some people could have. I mean,
okay.
some people want to have
Sorry, I'm thinking of like the
the
first
remains
one and then
and
to
put
the
it in
second
like
one.
a box
Yeah.
and, or ask for if they have to have a DNC like I did the second time. I just don't think I don't even think I thought of that, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think it even crossed my mind
Yeah.
as something that you could do or somebody would do.
Yeah. What okay, so you have the second miscarriage way further in to the pregnancy. How long between that I guess what did your process what did the process of grief look like from the first to the second one?
I think the second one was just longer, like
Okay.
because I was grappling with the first one I could understand because like I said before, I felt like that was fairly common, you know. I knew
Especially in your family, like you had
yeah,
said.
people in my family I knew so many women who had suffered a miscarriage.
Okay.
And when I say suffered, that's what I mean. It's hard. It's just, it doesn't really matter if you lose a baby 2 days after you know. It's devastating, especially, I mean, it's just so exciting to find out that you're going to have a baby. I mean, it's just, everybody's happy. Your parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just such a huge thing. And then the second time I was dealing with, well, wait, it happened again. Why did it happen again?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Okay, is that
So-
in the second miscarriage, is that when the thoughts or questions of like, is there something wrong with
Yes.
me started?
Yes.
Okay.
Why can't my body do what God made it to do?
Okay.
And I think, too, the thoughts creeping in of like, hold on a second. One miscarriage I can kind of deal with and understand. Why is this happening to me again? Because I know that you have put the desire in my heart to be a mom. So kind of like what gives?
Yeah.
And so those kinds of questions were coming up in my, I kind of just, because I was a good girl, just pushed him to the side, pushed him down
So,
deep.
okay, that's what I was going to ask is, so what did as obviously it got heavier,
Yeah.
and grieving obviously longer, what was that process to you? And not like, okay, I know what freedom is over here.
Right.
But like going back to that, like how, I guess, yeah, like what were those questions, both questions on yourself, like, why can't I do this? Like, what did the grief look like?
Well, I think that, I mean, I was just really sad. Because like I said, I had had a longer period of time to dream and get excited and wonder, was it a boy or a girl or what? And we did find out they did do some tests because it was a second miscarriage and it was a girl.
Okay.
And I haven't had another girl other than Hadassah since then.
Okay.
And I think that kind of makes me a little bit emotional. I don't know what the first baby was. I know what the second one was.
Well, you knew more. You knew more.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I was just anticipating so much more and so much more excited and
You hadn't,
dreaming and
you hadn't named either the first two, right?
No. But I just remember thinking, oh no, fear. I know fear started to really grip me because I thought, oh my gosh, like it's happened twice. I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah.
And what if something's wrong with me? Because I knew it wasn't Scott. I mean, you know, men contribute for sure, but like for a second, and then you know, it's like can't be him. It's got to be something with me. And so,
No, it is funny because like I'll have my guy friends that be like, "Hey, man, we're pregnant." I'm like, "No,
no,
your wife's pregnant. You contributed about 5 seconds.
Exactly. She is pregnant
She is
by you.
You, yeah.
Yeah, and so, what was I saying?
So it was like, what did the like questions like?
Oh yeah.
What are all those
shame.
questions?
I felt a
coming
lot
in?
of shame.
Okay.
I really I was embarrassed. I remember feeling really embarrassed that this happened again, and it doesn't really make sense other than I'm a woman and this is what God made me for, and my body is not doing it. Something is wrong.
Was it a self-induced shame, or was there dumb people who said dumb things?
Oh, both. I mean,
Okay.
a lack of understanding, and as a true performer, no, let me say, a recovering performer.
There you go. Yeah.
I did I do something wrong physically? Did I do something wrong spiritually?
Yeah.
Even though I don't think I was thinking God killed my baby because I was bad, because I was a performer. I performed great.
Yeah.
I think more it was like, why is this happening to me? I'm such a good Christian. I don't know that I thought that, but the confusion I think was coming from that place. Like, doesn't really make sense that God would allow this to happen to me because
Look at
I've
how
been
good
faithful.
Yeah. And up to this point, generally speaking, and just kind of like good old performer, Christian.
Yeah.
Had you been pretty good?
Yeah, other than a little bit in high school. Not long. It didn't last long.
Okay.
I always wanted to please my parents, and I was always really obedient.
Okay.
And even when I was rebelling in high school, you know, sneaking out, going to couple parties, dating a guy I had no business dating, I still sometimes cried myself to sleep at night because I wanted to do what was right. I knew it wasn't, and I didn't like deceiving my parents, especially because it's a lot of work. Whew. It's so exhausting to live a lie. It is. To live a duplicitous life, it's a lot of work, and I didn't like it for that. And also because I loved my parents, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to have that hanging over my head, and I didn't want that hanging over my conscience, because I felt convicted. I was convicted, and I would cry.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. This is one of the many resources we make available for free at our website, cultivaterelationships.com. Our resources have helped people grow in their relationship with God and others. We've seen people set free from uncontrollable anger and paralyzing fear. We've witnessed estranged family members be reunited after working through our Freedom Booklet. We've helped people build healthy relationship and coping habits through our coaching videos. And all of these resources are made available for free because of the generous support of people like you. If you would like to become a partner, please visit cultivaterelationships.com/support. Now, I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. So, okay, with the second miscarriage, what did that grief look like? Like, what did that you processing through to what the best you knew, maybe the wrongly? Like, what did that process look like?
A lot of assuming on my part, like I said. Something's wrong with me. Maybe a lot of confusion because why would God give me this desire and then I've had 2 miscarriages? What gives? What's he doing? And the shame, experiencing shame. Why is my body not doing what it's supposed to do? And just that embarrassment. It doesn't really make sense. I do know now, after talking to so many women, that it's very common to feel that shame. It's so misplaced. That's why I say it doesn't really make any sense. How could that be you can't make your body do what you want it to do.
Right.
But when it quote unquote won't, it's hard to come to terms with that. And not being in control of it, get mad. Like, I like being in control. And when something is out of my control, that's scary. And fear often causes me to react in anger.
Okay. So from first miscarriage to second miscarriage, did you do anything regarding control, fear, anxiety? From first miscarriage to second miscarriage, like think before the first miscarriage to in between those two. Did you or do you know of anything where you're intentionally like, yes, I added this control into my life, or anything like that?
I think that I was a little bit more aware of like what I was eating, how I was taking care of my body, making sure I had all the right vitamins, and I was taking folic acid and taking a prenatal before I got pregnant, just in case it was something. So maybe in that regard, trying to
but nothing like
fix
crazy.
it when I didn't even know what was wrong.
Right, but nothing like over the top. More like, okay, no, that seems natural. Like you would take a little bit more care of your body, if you will. So okay, now second miscarriage between that and the next pregnancy.
I also did a lot of stuffing, by the way.
What do you mean stuffing?
Stuffer. I was a professional stuffer.
I know.
So a lot of it was just like, and also I had a husband who didn't really know how to deal with my grief.
Yeah.
Because
he wasn't emotional, right?
No, he wasn't. I mean, he was sad, and I knew he was sad, but he wasn't.
Like, I can't imagine Scott knowing what to do with the emotions of you.
He didn't. And so he did nothing.
Exactly. No, exactly.
So it was like, So in order for me to not feel, I think, alone, because at this time I didn't live near my family either.
Right.
We
You guys
were
are
in
in Georgia.
Alaska.
Oh, wait.
Well, my family was in Alaska.
yeah.
And so I'm saying, like, I'm really close with my mom.
Yeah.
But I didn't have her near me. I mean, I talked to her on the phone, and she's wonderful, and she was my support. But we had also walked through hard family stuff not long before that. So it was like trying to navigate those waters of, like, getting back into close relationship after something hard, and then that happening. So I just felt alone.
Yeah.
And in order to deal with that, I think, loneliness and confusion, I just,
So you started to stuff it. Okay.
just don't think about it.
Okay, so from second miscarriage to pregnancy, what other, I guess, kind of practical things did you add to your life to try to control the next pregnancy? Or did you guys stop trying after that?
We stopped for a little bit because
Okay.
we moved. So
Okay,
after
so
the second miscarriage, we moved to Georgia.
Okay.
Okay, so like you're in between insurance and all the things. So we were not trying.
Right.
If anything, we were preventing.
Okay.
And so, so the things that I mentioned, just trying to eat super healthy, work out, take my prenatals even before I was pregnant, take folic acid, just anything that was in my control to do, I did.
Okay.
And then when we got to Georgia and established, Scott got into his job and we established, I got maternity. Then it was like, okay,
We could try
now we
again.
have insurance. We can try. But it was like, oh my God.
What did community look like for you during the first two miscarriages? Like you said, you had your mom, but was there anything else?
No.
Were you
Not really. I mean, I had a couple of friends. This was a hard thing too. So when you're miscarrying, you miscarry once, it's sad. You miscarry again, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? And your friends are people in the same stage of life you are, having babies, getting pregnant, and not miscarrying. And it's really hard because you're so genuinely happy for them and so sad for yourself. And it's really hard to get excited for people that are experiencing, without any complications, what you want. And like, oopsie, they're not even trying. Like,
right.
They didn't maybe even care.
They look at each other and it's like
but
they get
don't,
twins.
Yeah, but they don't really even care. It's like, oh, we want kids. We don't want kids. Oh, look.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my gosh, like it seemed so unfair.
So did it cause you to be like, oh, I'm not going to show my grief to them because they seem so happy?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a pride thing too. Like,
well, no. Like, because
and I also didn't want to make them uncomfortable.
That's what I was just going to say.
And I knew they were trying not to make like, it made me feel frustrated, not frustrated at them, but angry at the whole situation when somebody had to, I don't want to tell you this because, but we're going to have a baby. And it's like, yay!
Yeah.
But you're like, don't feel sorry for me. I don't like when people do that to me. Like, if somebody condescends to me, it really triggers something in me. I'm not really sure what that is, but I really don't like it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't meant that way. I think genuinely people were just trying to be careful.
Right.
But when you voice that to somebody, it's like, it just makes it awkward.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's so awkward.
So, and you guys hadn't been introduced to Fresh Start by this point, right? Even though you were in Omaha? No. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure like you had no bearing of freedom and stuff.
Loved our church, where Fresh Start was started. That's the church we went to the first time we lived there.
Really?
Which is what brought us back to that church and to Fresh Start the second time around.
They had not been doing Fresh Start at the time, though?
I'm not sure if they were. If they were, we didn't know about it.
You had no clue?
We had never met Pastor Steve the first time around.
Okay.
We had met Les, the lead pastor, but we didn't have community at that church. We only went on a Sunday. So we didn't really have any connections.
Okay.
At the time.
I see. Okay, so you guys moved to Georgia. You like you said, you had insurance. You started to try again. Got pregnant right away.
Yes, and I cried.
I cried, like sad, cried happy, cried.
All the emotions.
Okay.
I was very happy.
Yeah.
Because this was the intention. But I was so scared.
Okay, so what did that pregnancy look like for you?
So, I was,
And I'm not talking about the normal stuff. I'm talking about like the control side, the fear side, all of that.
yeah, I don't have a very good memory. Just I'll be right up front with you, but I do remember being really scared.
Yeah.
I don't remember like doing anything really different because remember I was already trying to be really healthy and do all the things. So I was already doing it. So I just kept doing that.
Okay.
And my doctor had told me before I got pregnant with Josiah, I had gone to a doctor in Georgia to establish care. And he said, I told him my history. And he said, well, because you've had 2 miscarriages, we consider you high risk.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that why you miscarried at the times that you did would probably related to hormones. And I'm going to guess that it was a progesterone issue because if your progesterone drops dramatically in the first trimester, it can lead to miscarriage. And so he said, so what I'm going to do is just as soon as you find out you're pregnant again, once you start trying, I'm going to put you on progesterone.
Okay.
And so as soon as I got pregnant, called him, he prescribed it, I got it, and I started taking it. So I think that made me feel like, okay, well, maybe we have a little bit of an answer.
Yeah.
And so honestly, because I made it, I never saw any signs of anything.
Okay.
Went to my first appointment, heard the heartbeat. So relieved.
I was just going to ask, was that like
yes, we figured this out.
Okay.
But because I was high risk,
Yeah.
they wanted to do an early ultrasound.
Okay.
And so that was at 14 weeks.
Okay.
So I go in for my next routine because you visit the doctor about once a month.
Okay.
Until you get to the end, and then it's every week.
Okay.
So I went for my next one at 14 weeks, and that's actually, is that right? I don't think that's right. I think my first appointment was at 12 weeks. They heard a heartbeat, did an early ultrasound, and the comment the lady made to me when I left that appointment was, okay, we're going to have you come back in 2 weeks and do another ultrasound and we'll keep our fingers crossed. And I remember thinking, that's not very reassuring.
Yeah,
like,
that's not.
Why would you say that to somebody? That's
right.
But what I did not know
Yeah.
is that she did not tell me she already saw something concerning.
Oh, interesting.
That's why they brought me back.
Oh, okay.
So they brought me back 2 weeks later, about 2 weeks later, I think, and my cousin Renee happened to be visiting.
Okay.
And we picked her up from the airport and went straight to my appointment. And I was like, yay, you're going to come with me to my appointment. And she's like, oh, yay. And I said, sorry, you have to wait in the waiting room, but it's so exciting. And she's like, yay. And so it was April Fool's.
Oh, no.
So we get there and we go back.
I'm already
like
tracking on this story. Like, oh no,
terrible.
This is not going to be good.
So terrible. And so we go in and we do the ultrasound and they tell us your baby has a birth defect.
Both you and Scott, like, was Scott there or just you at the point?
I think he was back. I don't remember. You'd have to ask him. I want to say he came back with me because Renee was out there by herself, or maybe they went and got him
and brought
him back.
But he was there. He was there on that trip.
He was there. Okay. Yes, he was there.
Yeah.
We both got the bad news.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just remember like, okay, well, this isn't a second miscarriage. This is worse.
Mm.
So now I'm 14 weeks now.
Did they tell you the whole scope of what the birth defect was, or was
it was a neural tube birth defect, anencephaly?
Okay, so explain that.
So what that is the opposite of anencephaly is spina bifida. Okay. So if the neural tube doesn't close on the end, on the towards the base of the spine, it's spina bifida. If it doesn't close at the top, it's anencephaly. If it doesn't close at the top, skull doesn't form over the soft tissue. Okay. So he basically did not have a skull. Yeah. Which changes what they look like and everything. Yeah. Yeah. And so they were like, so what in these pregnancies, babies, they can live in utero, but none have survived outside once they're born. And typically they go past the due date. Yeah. So you get to be pregnant. For longer. You get to be pregnant longer. Yeah. With a baby who has no chance of survival. Yeah. So what you should do is terminate. Okay. which, I mean, immediately was like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
just absolutely not. Neither of us even entertained a blip of termination.
Yeah.
We were taught,
Yeah.
no, that is not right. And we knew it wasn't right,
Right.
and we knew it in our bones. It wasn't that God was in charge of this life. He allowed us to conceive, and we knew that he could do miracles.
Yeah.
And so it was at that point that we were very sad. I was very disillusioned. I was very confused. I did not understand why God was allowing what he was allowing. Same kind of things. I don't know what I've done.
Okay, let me ask you this. Back then, just with where you were theologically, did you have the concept of why are you allowing it or why are you doing this to me?
I think I've thought, why are you allowing it?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
you're a little further down the road than me at that point.
Yeah. I don't think I
You
ever
did this.
felt like God did it.
Okay.
But I mean, same thing. I think
yeah,
in
right.
my
It can
mind,
feel
it's
the
like,
same.
it kind of felt like, well, you're not doing it, but you can also stop it.
Yeah.
You have the power and the authority
Yeah.
to heal.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. So as confused as I was, though, and as sad as we were, and as cruel as it seemed, and I don't think I thought God was cruel. I thought life is cruel.
Yeah.
I find out on April Fool's Day,
Right.
but it's not a joke. It's my reality. When my friend is here to have a good time, we're not gonna have a good time.
No.
Like it's just
Yeah, that's done.
yeah, that's done.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be sad the whole time. But on the other hand, as I think that more than one thing can be true, as believers, we can be struggling with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Who are you, God? What are you doing? I don't like this. I'm scared. I'm sad. I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And at the same time be going, okay, but I know you're powerful and you can heal and you're in control. So we're going to pray,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you go to the only place you know to go, and that's to the Lord and to our friends. And we had friends, being in YWAM, we had friends
Everywhere.
all over the world.
Yeah.
And so we called our friends all over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't call them, we emailed them.
Yeah, right.
Back in the day, that's all we had.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We had email.
Yeah.
And so we emailed.
This is late 90s?
He was born in 2002.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, this was after, because I remember where we were when it turned from 1999 to 2000.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, nothing happened. That was where we were living there when we had our first miscarriage. And then so between 2000 and 2002, we had the 2 miscarriages.
Okay.
And then Josiah was born in 2002.
Okay.
So we just were feeling all the things.
Yeah.
Grieving a baby that wasn't gone yet. That was really weird.
Because he was still alive.
Still
I guess
alive. I could feel him.
So
kicking.
how-
And they told me he's not going to move very much. Like some of the characteristics of being pregnant with a baby that has anencephaly. I thought he moved a lot. If he had lived, he probably would be crazy.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
With how much he moved, with all your faith-filled friends around the world and missions, I guess by the I don't want to say end, but toward the end of your pregnancy, were you and Scott no, this is going to be fine?
Oh, heck yeah.
Was there...
We had people prophesy that it would be.
Was there doubt? Was there probably not? Or were you guys all in? Nope, this is going to happen.
I wouldn't really call it doubt. I would say we didn't know for sure what God was going to do.
Sure.
Because we knew that some people he heals and some people he doesn't. And
So there was a lingering question, but you guys were faithful.
Would he? But
yeah.
we pressed into it and even believed I would say that I believed that I think he's going to be healed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell somebody, I know it, thus saith the Lord.
But
But I just knew. When we were in England and it came time to give birth, well, he was actually born early. They said I would go. But so many things about it were just the grace of God over that whole situation.
Yeah.
And that was one of them, I think, that I would not have to endure more months of not knowing.
Yeah.
And that being overseas, we were going to get everything paid for, which I know socialized medicine is not the be all end all. There's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
But for a visitor,
For you, it's
perfect
Yeah,
because I didn't have to pay taxes,
Yeah.
60% of my income.
Yeah.
I just got the benefit of it.
Right.
But that was a way that God blessed us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that we didn't have astronomical bills because we didn't have we had insurance. We didn't have good insurance.
Okay.
I think it would have covered the minimal.
Yeah.
And then we would have been left with the rest. And we basically made no money.
Yeah.
None. And so, yeah, it was just a blessing. But I remember, my point is, I remember being there and he was early. I was only 28 weeks. I was having him early because I had a lot of amniotic fluid, which is also...
Wait. What's the normal
40.
pregnancy?
40.
40 weeks is
Yes.
normal.
So I was 28.
But you said with anencephaly, it can be longer.
Right. Or in some small percentage of cases, you can have them early because the amniotic fluid builds up and your body thinks, oh,
We're ready.
we're big. You're
Okay, and that's
huge.
what happened to you.
That's
so
what happened to me.
Okay.
I was, what is that? 6 months pregnant, 7-ish
Yeah.
between, and I looked full term.
Okay.
So my body was like, oh, hormones kicked in.
We're good to go.
Time to have this baby.
Yep.
Although I did labor for like a week.
Oh, wow.
But that was also the grace of God because in England, if you deliver a baby before 28 weeks, you don't get a birth certificate. And no, you don't get a death certificate. I can't remember. You don't get one of those certificates. And so they don't, I think it's a death certificate. You don't get a death certificate. And so they won't cover the costs of the funeral.
Okay.
Well, he was born right at 28 weeks.
Okay.
But I was in labor from 27 weeks, but didn't go have him until 28
20.
weeks. And when I went to the doctor for my follow-up visits after, he said, okay, 28 weeks gestation. Okay, that's significant. And I said, wait, why is that significant? And he said, oh, well, here, if a baby's born before 28 weeks, he told me.
Yeah.
And so we got to have a death certificate and we got to bury him.
Okay.
And it was all covered.
Okay.
Again, socialized.
Yeah. So, okay, so you guys are full of faith, hopeful. You guys are...
We had the underground church in China praying for our baby.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why would you pray for us? You're persecuted.
Yeah.
You're like the church in Acts.
Right.
Why would you pray for our baby?
So...
That blew my mind. It still makes me cry to think that God would put us on the hearts of people who are probably so far beyond me in faith. You know what I mean? Like they're sacrificing, their life is on the line.
Yeah. So this is where I'm building. I'm building up to it. You guys are hope-filled, believing in miracles, healing. Up to what point were you like, oh, like how far did that
all the way
last?
till he was born.
Okay.
Because when I'm in the hospital, they admitted me, said, okay, you're going to have him. You're really dilated. This is going to happen. I told them, they knew that he had the birth defect.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, could you go ahead and give him that shot, that steroid that develops their lungs really quickly?
Oh, yeah.
So that when he's born, because we believe that God is going to heal him.
Yeah.
Could you have a NICU team ready to whisk him off? And they just were like, okay. Well, I don't think a hospital here would have done it.
Yeah.
But they do things a lot more naturally there. A lot more. Like midwives come in to help you. A doctor doesn't come unless he needs to. But they were like listening, thought I was delusional.
For sure.
But were willing to, because that's the faith I had.
Yeah.
I think I fully expected to give birth to a premature but whole, healthy baby. That's why I wanted them to give them the shot. I was giving God, and I think when I look back, it was like, I'm giving you every opportunity to do the right thing here. This is going to
Right.
bring you so much glory.
For sure.
Surely if this many people are praying for us all over the world, strangers are praying for our baby, you're going to heal him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if my faith was genuine or if it was like, okay, God, I'm giving you a chance to do what
Performance?
only you can do. Right? Like,
Yeah. Like, do you feel like, not that you can truly assess your motivation back then anyways.
Right.
I get it. But how much of it, as you kind of look back at Sarah or Winter, then do you go, no, there was a lot of performance in that? And again, I don't want to whitewash it, the faith. I don't want to, they're genuine faith, genuine hope. But how much, like, just kind of knowing yourself?
well, I don't think I ever thought of it that way until actually just now when I said it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I just said some of it could be that I was giving God the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never have thought of that before.
Oh, really?
I've never
Oh,
thought
wow.
of that before.
Okay.
But I also think, because more than one thing can be true,
Yeah, right.
I also believe that I did have faith. I did have a measure of faith.
Absolutely.
Like, I really,
Absolutely.
not only did I know God could without
Yeah.
any doubt, I thought he would.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
And so that was also, I think, part of my motivation for having them do that.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was gonna.
Yeah.
And so when he was born, not healed,
Yeah.
I just remember just being so, I mean, I don't even know if disappointed is a good word. But I know I felt it. But
I don't
so
think there's
confused.
probably not a word that
Probably
can.
not. It was, I mean, I think I was genuinely like, whilst I wasn't surprised because I knew he could be born and not be healed.
Yeah.
But when he wasn't, I was also taken aback because most of me thought, this is what's going to happen.
And he was born alive.
Yes, he was
Yeah.
born alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Birth was traumatic. Like, it's traumatic for those babies. But it wasn't super long. The birth didn't, because he wasn't very big. He weighed, I don't actually even know if I remember how much he weighed. I know we must have it somewhere. So little.
Yeah.
So little. And big feet. He had such huge, although I don't know if he would have had big feet. It could have been the stage of development where the hands look bigger than the body in comparison to the body. But flat feet. He did have flat feet like Scott. Flat as a pancake. Again, maybe that was just part of the development. But then when Zion was born, I was like, well, yep, those are some flat feet.
Yeah.
But I just remember, okay, this is the choice God made. This is the decision. Here's my answer.
Hold on. Even before Josiah died, that you felt that? Okay. Okay.
If he didn't come out healed, he wasn't going to get healed.
Okay.
And he just lived for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Very couple minutes. And because the severity of anencephaly can differ, and his was severe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did that 2 minutes feel like? Like, what was that 2 minutes for you and Scott?
Oh, it was like, I mean, all your dreams are just laying in pieces all over the floor. It's not, you're just empty.
Yeah.
And also full of grief at the same time.
Yeah.
It's devastating. It's devastating. And you want to make it not be your reality. Like, nope, just kidding. This is just a dream. This isn't real. Let's go back. Do over.
Yep.
Rewind.
Yep.
I don't want that. I don't want this. And yet our response was to, with our mouth, we still praised the Lord. We still, it wasn't something that in that moment we made this choice that God is not trustworthy. We're angry.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We held him and cried and bathed him and clothed him. And my dad was there and my brother was there, and they cried with us and for themselves. And we just I was just sad.
Yeah.
I was just really sad. And, but it was like, this is what God says. No.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. Like, no. And I don't remember feeling mad at him. That's the thing. I know there was anger in my response later, but in that moment, I don't remember feeling mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then we just had to leave him there. That's another thing that was so cool is that they were so respectful of our privacy and our grief, and they did not take him from me. It wasn't like, here, you can hold him for a minute, and now we're going to take him to the baby morgue or whatever. I don't know if there's such a thing, but like, no, they even pulled in a bed for us to put him in. And so when we left the room, that was the last time we saw him. They didn't take him from us.
Okay.
We walked away, which I almost think now, well, that's kind of worse. Okay, bye, baby. You know, like, there's no right thing to do. For some people, they just would have wanted it immediately. And for other people, they would have wanted it exactly how we had it.
I look at it this way. You say there's no right way to do it. I would argue there's probably no wrong way.
No.
Like in those moments, there is, I remember recently just with some friends of ours going through stuff, that's kind of our constant, hey, it's messy.
Yeah.
There's no wrong way to do this. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I could prove you wrong in that.
no, hold on. What I mean by that is in those moments where just all of the emotions are there, I think it goes back to, I think Scott is the one that said this in his story where God goes, hey, do you think I'm big enough? And I think that's what I mean is there's no wrong words. There's no wrong feelings. There's no, it's just, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I know your story and I know there's other things that have transpired, but it's
no wrong feelings, wrong responses to those feelings.
Yeah,
but that came later.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean is like in that moment, God wants our heart. And that's what I mean by there's no wrong words. There's no wrong feelings. And I think, I don't know. I think we grew up in the Christian sphere, churchianity. And I think what happens is because we want to please God, we then start to put parameters around what grief should look like and how long it should last and the things you should be able to say and the things that you shouldn't be able to say. That's what I'm getting in. That's what I mean. Other bad choices that we make later on in light of unresolved grief, that's later on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, okay. You two, how long did you stay in that space? Like I'm saying before you and Scott left that room, like how long was that space for you guys?
I think we stayed all night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We held him all night.
Yeah.
I slept with him in my arms. Scott held him a lot. My dad held him. My brother, I think my brother held him. I don't remember all the details, but we just had him. So I think it was all night.
What did
we left the next day?
You guys left, but then you said you also were able to bury him? Okay. So what did the leaving, like you said, you left him in the room and what did the goodbye look like?
Oh, that was probably the hardest part because it was like I knew he wasn't alive, but I would never see him again.
Yeah.
Until heaven. Yeah. So it was hard to walk out. Like, I don't want to leave, but he's starting to look funny, you know, because he wasn't alive. And so his coloring was changing and all of that.
Yeah.
And so it was hard. It was really sad. I haven't really talked about it to this depth for a long time. Usually I can talk about it and not cry, but those specific things you're asking, those were hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leaving the room was really sad. But
this is something, you know, I think it's in 1 Thessalonians, where it talks about the hope that Christians have of an afterlife, of of resurrection. We read those as like theological realities, like, we're going to be raised again.
Exactly.
The depth, and I think those verses do not become real until you talk to people. And what's interesting is throughout the New Testament, those letters were written for a reason. And I imagine you have so many people, especially to a new faith, going, Paul, I'm sorry, I just lost my son. I just lost my spouse. I just lost my best friend. Tell me like this isn't just for nothing. Like tell me about this Jesus who you say rose from the dead.
Right.
To me, I don't know. As I meet people who walk through different circumstances, but then I see blips in the New Testament, I don't know. I reread those differently now.
Yeah.
And especially in light of walking people through really difficult things, I read those really differently now.
Yeah.
They're not a theological doctrine anymore.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, no, this is the hope of our faith. Like, this is the thing that it's like, okay, we don't have to grieve like non-believers.
Right.
We can grieve with hope. And so, kind of fast forward, and I'm gonna super gloss over, like you said, bad choices that both you and Scott made. I might want to do another podcast with you. Okay, so I liken hard things that people go through, whether it's abuse, loss of a loved one, as when you have like a broken bone or a wound or a festering wound or whatever, you protect it, you hide it, you cover it, you care for it differently than if it was a healed bone or a scar. So I guess my and this is what I mean by kind of fast forward, but I don't also want to gloss over it, is what did the process going from this loss, this wound, from, I don't know, not talking about it, not, to, no, I can talk about it, and there's actually hope in the story now. And I guess what did that process look like? Like, I think of a scar. I'm like, oh, let me tell you the scar and how I got it. And I don't know, what did that process, how long was that process? Are there elements even to today? You said 2002, so we're 4 years. Are there elements where you're like, oh, hey, that's something I need to give to my father again? I don't know. Like, I don't know that process. Like, the loss of a child is one of the most devastating things. And so I don't know that. And so, like, what does that look like?
Well, I think that the thing that I felt that was, I think, the most damaging during my grief was not feeling protected. You know, you talked about it and it made me think of that.
By Scott, by God?
By Scott, by people who, I think, like you mentioned earlier before, just expected me to grieve a certain way. So when they asked, how are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing good.
Yeah.
I want to give up on my marriage and on God, and I want to run away to Alaska. Then nobody knew what to do with me being real.
Yeah.
I didn't even know being real was a thing. I just felt desperate. Like, I hadn't seen people be real in church with their struggles.
Yeah.
But you asked, so I'm going to tell you, because I felt like that was the thing I needed to do.
Right.
And I trusted the people that asked me. And all I got was, you'll be okay. You know,
will I be?
Of the things you say to people.
Yeah.
You know, Pat, it's going to be okay. And it's like, but it's not okay. And I'm actually not okay.
Right.
I was trying to tell people, like, I'm in a really dangerous place right now. I was trying to be transparent, and I didn't even know transparency was healthy or a thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any, and I'm not saying this to blame people for what
Nope.
I chose.
Right.
But I know that now sometimes that still comes up in my life.
Oh, and okay.
Yeah. Where if the thing that, like you said, kind of triggers me is if I feel unprotected.
Yeah.
I have a real need to feel protected.
Yeah.
I struggle with fear. I've always struggled with fear. Okay, I don't now.
Yeah.
I do at times, but it's not a stronghold in my
Yeah.
life anymore
Yeah.
because of the freedom that the Holy Spirit has brought into my life. But it was a stronghold from the time I
Yeah.
was a little girl up
Yeah.
until the point he set me free. It was a massive stronghold.
Yeah.
And so obviously the enemy is going to try to keep coming at that avenue that's worked for the majority of my life.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling unprotected, I will struggle more.
Mm.
And the Holy Spirit is always faithful to show me, you know, because I also have learned enough and have enough tools to go, oh, wait, I can just come to him and say, what gives?
Yeah.
I feel really afraid. Why am I struggling with this? And him give me the answers. But I just kind of I think I was just kind of done with grief, honestly. Okay. I was like, I'm just kind of over this. This is hard. I'm not getting what I want, which FYI, you gave me that desire. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I'm really willing to run after this dangling carrot anymore.
Okay. Here's what I want to do. Let's pause because you do have to get going.
Okay.
Can we do this again?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Like we got a dangling on a carrot, literally. Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Yes, thank you. It was good. I didn't know I was going to cry so much.
No, we will get to the positive side of it, I guess, next episode. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it and really appreciate your heart. And I wanted to get to the freedom side because I know that, but I think, especially when people are walking through grief, they need to be, we need to be validated in this. And so I'm glad we actually spent time here.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
Yep. All right.
Look forward to talking again.
Goodbye.